everyone, Nev here, and this is the the third video in this series. It is day 6, I believe, of doing a deep dive with the Pacific Northwest Tarot. And so in this video we're going to go over the next 6 cards in the Major Arcana. We've already done the first 12, so we are on the next 6. All right, so, and I already put them right at the top here. So I'm gonna keep the book over here. Here we go. All right, so, and if you see this new background, this is some new fabric I just got in, and I got this specifically for this deck to kind of go along with the artwork in here. And I picked this fabric, one, because of the colors. A lot of the colors in the in this are also in this deck. These are this is kind of the color palette of it. Also, I wanted a fabric that had mushrooms, and ideally I wanted fabric that had swans in it, because my favorite card in this deck, this is in order, so I'll just find the card. My favorite card in this deck is the Sun, and it's got this beautiful trumpeter swan on it. And when I was kind of designing the bag for this deck, I really wanted to incorporate swans in the design. So finding this fabric that was basically the color palette of this deck, plus it had mushrooms, which I wanted, plus it had swans, it was just like I jumped on this. So yeah, so I'm going to use it as the background for right now. I haven't made the bag for it yet, but I will share that. Maybe I'll put it on my art channel. Anyway, so the next 6 cards of the Major Arcana, we have the Hanged One, we have Death, we have Temperance, we have the Devil, we have the Tower, and we have the Star. And I believe, yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah. All right, so with the Hanged One, I mean, I really like this. It's got, I think there's a lot of symbolism here that fits with what the Hanged Man or the Hanged One is, what we call it in this deck here. And that makes sense, since this isn't a human deck. It's more of a flora and fauna type of deck. So we have the Hanged One instead. And we obviously have this cocoon, and a butterfly or a moth is in there growing, and it's kind of an incubation period. The Hanged One for me represents various different things. One, it represents like being kind of stuck in a place, and like, this is the place you have to be in. You're stuck right here. This is where you're meant to be. This is where you're stuck being. This is where you're this is what you're tied to right now. But it also means seeing things from a different perspective. The hangman is usually upside down, so the person in the card usually has a different perspective on life right now, like a literal different perspective, but that translates to life. And here, I mean, we have this hanging creature here, and it is stuck in this place, because it's stuck there because it needs to grow. So this creature needs to be in this position right now, because it must grow before it can reach its full potential, before it grows up. And you're definitely seeing life from a different perspective in this one. So let's see what the book says. So Hanged One. All right, so this is a Taylor's checker spot butterfly. So it is a butterfly. All right, and this is the pupa of it, because I believe later on we see the adult version of this butterfly, not in this batch, but yes, we'll see the adult version of this butterfly later. So suspension, waiting, contemplation, uncertainty, indecision, a new perspective, sacrifice. So a lot of the same things I said. Indecision was not really one of my personal keywords for this card, but I can definitely see it. All right, so diapause. An extended period of time in which a pupal butterfly or moth delays changes in its life cycle, remaining in stasis until external conditions are favorable for it to emerge. While normally a caterpillar might metamorphose over 2 weeks or so, our hanged one might delay that by a year or 3 if they need to. Stuck and suspended, waiting for the world to change in a way that makes her continuation viable. That makes her actions meaningful. So yeah, I mean, I don't think there's much else to say. I think this card does a very good job conveying what the Hanged One means. All right, so now we have Death, and I find this very interesting that it is a mushroom. Mushroom, and I think this is the only mushroom in the deck. And I do like, I really like mushrooms. And it's kind of funny with this particular deck, the Pacific Northwest Tarot. My husband and his family is from Oregon. So that's where he grew up. I mean, when he was a teenager, they moved to New Hampshire, and that's where we live now. But my husband grew up in Oregon, and he and I also got married in Northern California. But one of the things that he did growing up with his dad and his brother was mushroom hunting. And that was a very big thing with them, a bonding experience with them. And yeah, my father-in-law is very into mushrooms. So yeah, this just kind of sort of makes me think of my husband's side of the family. So just a personal note on this one. But so when I think of mushrooms, I think of them being the largest living organism on the earth. I mean, that's the mushroom kingdom, you know, I don't know what else to call it. It's massively huge, and it's kind of that undercurrent under everything. It's I almost feel like it's what makes the earth go in a certain way. So that's my own personal interesting connection here with the Death card. I'm going to see because I'm guessing this is a poisonous mushroom, and that's why it's called Death. But all right, so this is the Western North American Destroying Angel. Ooh, the Destroying Angel. I can see why it's associated with death now. So transition, transformation, upheaval, endings and beginnings, death and rebirth, release. So a release of something. Death grows from death. Decaying leaves, animal matter, and microorganisms mix in a fertile loam. Spores take hold and bond with oaken roots below. Bone-white towers stretch upward. Nurtured by death, they now contain it. One bite is a death sentence. Delicate canopies spread, reaching outward as though seeking embrace. New spores scatter on the wind. Life also grows from death. So yeah, so this is the Death card often represents a big death or an ending, or an ending to something, but it also it's kind of a hopeful card. A lot of people are scared of the Death card because death, but I gotta say, I don't think any card is scary per se, but I would say the scariest card would probably be the Ten of Swords in the entire deck, because the Ten of Swords is kind of hitting that rock bottom, and there is a hope to that too, but it is that hitting that rock bottom, whereas death, I feel like, is what comes right after it. It is the ending of that, and things have finally ended. If we're looking at this from a positive perspective here, but there's that hope here with death that new life does spring up. So let's do Temperance. So very interesting. We have some sort of tortoise or turtle. I'm gonna check real quick to see what this animal is. Western painted turtle. So very interesting. We see that it is partially on this log and partially on water, I'm guessing. So there is that sort of balance between earth and water. which makes sense. There's not a whole lot to really get from this card though, so I am going to, for the imagery, I'm going to read the book. So, the Western Painted Turtle. So, balance, moderation, patience, slow and steady progress, harmony, calm, peace, compromise. That is generally what I see with the Temperance card. And it's kind of funny because in general with the Temperance card, I think I always just have some trouble interpreting what the Temperance card is saying in a reading. It's one of those cards for me personally that when it pops up, I'm not sure what it's telling me. You know, it's just one of those cards. You know, I think we all sort of have, all of us tarot readers have that card or that grouping of cards that for some reason we don't fully connect to. I don't know if that makes sense. And it's also kind of funny because I am a Libra and you would think Temperance would be a very Libra card, but I don't know. Anyway, so there is wisdom in staying in my shell, thought Turtle. I am safe from the raccoon's prying paws and the hawk will think me a rock. But soon she was hungry. The sun moved and she was cold. She grew lonely. So she emerged. She filled up on mayflies and cool water. She found other turtles. She basked. There is wisdom in being open to the world, thought Turtle. A shadow of black feathers blocked the sun in the instant before the crow's beak struck. In that moment of warning, Turtle recanted her newfound philosophy. She retracted into her shell and beak balanced off carapace. Ah, realized Turtle, slightly rattled, it is best to be sometimes in my shell and sometimes out. There is wisdom in that. So, I mean, I think that last bit really exemplified what this card is trying to say to us. It is best to sometimes be in my shell and sometimes out. There is wisdom in that. So I think that perfectly sums up what this Temperance card is saying. And I do really like that a crow came to kind of warn the turtle that it was time to go back. And this is just me just thinking of my own personal connection with the Morrigan and crows and, you know, ravens and all that. But my own personal connection with the Morrigan. And so this is sort of going to give me something to think about when this card comes up, especially since this is kind of a trouble card for me. Not a trouble as in trouble in the reading, but a card that's sort of difficult for me to wrap my head around. And now, when I see this particular Temperance card, I'm going to kind of think of the Morrigan coming to warn me or to give some advice of, all right, it's time to go back or it's time to do X, Y, or Z. So very interesting. All right, so now we have the Devil card. All right. So this is two beings, and it says so here in the book. So it's the hops plant, but it's also the Japanese beetle. All right, so the Devil card is, for me, it's a card of temptations, addictions, things we're bound to, but in sort of a negative way. Whereas the Hanged one, this is something we're bound to, but it's for personal growth, and it's kind of, we're bound to it in a positive way. Yeah, that's how I would read the Hanged one. Whereas the Devil, we're bound to this. It's an addiction. It's something that's taking hold of our lives, but not in a positive way. And yeah, it's a big heart of temptation. We see these beetles eating these leaves, and there's only so much of these leaves. And I know that these beetles are known for like over-consuming and kind of taking out plants. So that's a very interesting depiction of this card. So the book says hedonism, addiction, excess, temptation, lust, obsession, oppression. Yeah, obsession for sure. The devil always comes from outside. It is the voice whispering in your ear, the monkey on your back, the invasive beetle stripping your leaves to skeletons. But if the devil comes from the outside, why does it take root so easily? The beetle has no natural predators. The leaves and grasses wait to be devoured, defenseless. So that's interesting too. These particular beetles aren't prey to anything else, so they are ultimate predators. A land ripe for consumption, a heart ripe for temptation, like you were waiting for it, like maybe it's not the outsider you thought it was. Better rip it out of its roots before it takes hold. All right, so yeah, I think this is a pretty good depiction of the devil and really gets the message across. All right, the Tower, and just like, wow, this is such a stunningly beautiful card. Like, this is a beautiful card. Just artistically, I mean, the Tower is often seen as a pretty negative card, but just because it's a big upheaval, it's like something sudden and devastating has happened, catastrophic, and this sort of thing happening isn't necessarily a bad thing. It could be a very much needed end, but it's kind of unexpected. It's sort of just, it's something that really happened that turned your world upside down. And here we have this redwood tree just like rooted in its place, and it has grown for probably centuries, and it is in its place, but this fiery energy, and we don't see actual fire in this card, but which I find interesting in the interpretation of this card, because it's almost like this fire, it's unavoidable, it is definitely coming, but what I see different with this card versus other Tower cards is we see that this upheaval is coming. We see that this death or this whatever, this is coming, and unfortunately the tree can't do anything to stop it. So that is a slightly different interpretation of the Tower than I normally have, but yeah, so let's see what the book says for the Tower. So the Tower, this is a Douglas fir. I thought it was a redwood. Okay, so it's a Douglas fir. Very interesting. Okay, so crisis, destruction, ruin, chaos, collapse, trauma, devastation, sudden change. A spark catches, and the tinder dry forest flares up like a match head. A wave of heat and fleeing wildlife precedes the spread. Nests, dens, and roots burn. Millions of homes are engulfed. Millions of lives, plant and animal, are sacrificed in fire. Nothing will be the same after the cataclysm. But destruction doesn't mean conclusion. Life returns after a fire, in time. And sometimes a towering giant even survives the burn. They carry the scars and twist around the damage, but they keep growing. I think that's a beautiful interpretation of the Tower, of such a heavy card, and it's very fitting because the artwork in this is just stunning. I love the artwork in this card. I believe in my list of the three piles, this was definitely in my favorites, but I believe this was number 4 of all the deck, my number 4 favorite card. All right, so now we are at the Star, and this is a mourning dove. I looked at the book. So this is a mourning dove. We see that star energy right there. I see the star as generally a symbol of hope, and it's a kind of a guiding light. And the Hermit also has that same energy, this guiding light, where the Hermit is kind of a, we have someone there who is guiding us. This is a bit more ethereal, and it's a bit more just a general positive energy, where the Hermit is sort of a retreating in. The Star is hope. Yes, hope, optimism, positivity, renewal, serenity, calm, healing, and peace. So it makes sense that that Brendan Marnell would pick a dove to represent the Star. So, Dove was most at home in the sky. He had taken flight at dawn. From darkness filled with trepidation and fear, he flew toward a bright beacon above the horizon. Dove's wings kept him aloft into the daylight, through forest, valley, and wasteland, heading ever toward that morning star still shining in the distance. As Dove journeyed, his heart lightened. He felt echoes of past pilgrims. His path intertwined with those of other travelers. He left his fear behind. He wheeled joyously in the sky and skimmed above clouds, flying higher than he had any right to. He tested the boundaries of himself and of the world he inhabited. A part of him hoped that he never reached the star, not wanting the journey to end. The rest of him wondered what the rest of him wondered what would happen when he got there. All right, yeah, so very beautiful interpretation of the star. So, all right, so the next part, we are doing each of these cards in the center, and we're going to do a quick 3-card reading with random cards from the deck, and we're going to do 2 for each card. So I am going to pause this so I can just shuffle this really well. All right, these are shuffled, and I have 2 cards that just pulled out, so we're going to put these around the Hanged One here. All right, so we have the Ace of Swords and the Knight of Pentacles. Okay, so I'm seeing both of these cards connected to the Hanged One, but in different ways. With the Hanged One here, we've got this new perspective, which is bringing clarity to a situation, and there's also a sense of concentration between the Ace of Swords and the Hanged One, and then the connection between the Hanged One and the Knight of Pentacles. And by the way, this card keeps coming out with these readings. I think there's some Knight of Pentacles energy that I need to pay attention to or something. But anyways, so the Knight of Pentacles, with the Hanged One, I mean, that connection there has a lot to do with patience. So we've got this concentration and clarity going on here from seeing a new perspective, and that came from having patience and really looking at the situation. So yeah, and seeing it from a different perspective, taking that patience, seeing it from a new perspective, and from that is coming this energy of clarity and concentration. Same thing here. So yeah, a lot of really looking at things, the details, and having that patience to really concentrate. So that's how I would read that reading. Let's see, we've got the Page of Cups, and we have the Lovers. So, gosh, you know, it's funny because I feel like these are 2 pretty positive cards in general, but my initial gut feeling of this was actually a bit more gloomy. So the Page of Cups to me is kind of a dreamer, and maybe has aspirations that are kind of just out of its reach. And it, I don't know, there's a childlike wonder to the cups, but I sort of feel like connected to the Hanged One, it really is talking about, like, this lover situation is really only happening in the dreams. Like, there's a desire to have this, the lovers, but with the Page of Cups and the Hanged One, I almost feel like this is something that's just out of reach, and it's not necessarily a loving relationship or a partnership of some sort, but they're like, this is the aspiration, and we're still like stuck in this position, and we're still in this dreamy like state, or literally dreams maybe, because, you know, the Hanged One is in a sense sleeping. Yeah, it's such a positive grouping of cards, but my initial gut feeling about this was just something a little bit more gloomy. But all right, so that is the 2 readings with the Hanged One. All right, now we have Death. So the next 2 cards here, we have the Knight of Cups. All these court cards keep coming out. And we have the 2 of Pentacles. Okay. So I think I think what's going on here is we're having a clash of emotions versus practicality. The Knight of Cups is a very romantic card, a very romantic energy, but it's also sort of a putting emotions into action and being guided by those emotions. Yeah, here's the book, Pacific White-Sided Dolphin, romance, love, charm, creativity, beauty, compassion and understanding, emotion, motivated into action, there we go, and unrealistic expectations. And that last bit, unrealistic expectations, when it's connected here with the Death and the Two of Pentacles, I feel like there's sort of this clash of what we want versus what we need, or what our emotions versus the practical nature of things, the more mundane things. And there's a lot of trying to balance that world out. But Death is saying that something needs to drop. Something needs to end for us to have a more balanced life here. There's too much going on, and there's high emotions here, and a sort of acting on those emotions, but so much so that there's too much juggling going on, and something needs to end. So, yep, that's how I would read that. All right, and then the next reading for this, we've got another court card, and I shuffled this really well. Yeah. So, King of Wands and the World. Okay. So we could see this with the King of Wands in the World. I mean, that's a total leadership position. The King of Wands is a leader. He's kind of a true leader. And the World, we could see it as being on top of the world, or being in charge of the world, being responsible. But also, the World is also a big picture kind of card. It's looking at the macro instead of the micro, which is funny because we see the macro here in a micro in a micro world here, the flower. So it's seeing the macro in a micro here. And I think with Death in the middle, I think this, in order to be a true leader, we've got to give some things up. We've got to end some things, possibly even giving up this leadership position because of the big picture, because of there's bigger things going on than yourself, or if this is you, the client, or whatever. There's bigger things going on, and I think maybe being a true leader means stepping back and letting someone else take over, or letting something else happen, because that's what needs to happen, and that's the best decision for a leader to make. All right, so I think that was both of the Death readings, right? All right, so now we are on Temperance. All right, we have the Nine of Pentacles. What a nice card there. And the Ten of Swords. What a not so nice card there. Wow. Okay, well, look at this. This is a total balance between two different energies here. We've got a rock bottom, just barren energy. And on the other side, complete fruitfulness and abundance. So, like, two extremely different cards, with the Temperance card in the middle, which is all about a balance. And, wow. Yeah, it's... Gosh, I'm trying to remind myself what the Temperance card was saying here when we were going over it. Yeah, balance, moderation, patience, slow and steady progress. This is not a progress, though. Harmony, calm, peace, compromise. So compromise, I think, is a big one here. We've got two extremes going on with a balance card in the middle. So there's big upheavals in someone's life right now with this sample reading. We've got massive amounts of abundance and just complete barrenness, and yeah, there needs to be some way to balance things out here. So wow, what an interesting combination of cards for that one. All right, so now we have the Hermit, Temperance, and the Three of Pentacles. So we have this one, which is all just going on our own, being very solitary, versus working as a team. So, I mean, to me, this is pretty clear. Striking a balance between wanting to be on our own, wanting to retreat versus being part of the team, being a team player. And Temperance is saying there's got to be a balanced strike between those two things. It's not so much of a difference as the previous ones. This was a huge difference. Whereas this is just, I feel like, a little bit more of a personal difference. Someone who retreats so much instead of working part as a team, and we've got to find that that compromise. This is kind of introversion versus extroversion sort of energy here. So yeah, there we go. All right, so now we have the Devil, and we have the Four of Cups versus the Ace of Wands. And Ace of Wands with Devil, that's some energy that goes together sometimes. So I would kind of see this because with the Wands here and the Devil, I mean, there's that energy of hedonism for sure right here. And then with the Four of Cups with the Devil, I feel like that's more like a cynicism, because the Four of Cups can also be like apathy and I don't care, that sort of energy. I'm not looking at all the cups around me, or I'm thinking about what I can't have or something like that. But I'm really sort of leaning into that apathy, which is leaning with the Devil feels like cynicism. So I feel like this reading is sort of a look at some rather destructive behaviors, a hedonism and a cynicism that is leading to this destructive path. So yeah, quite a dark reading there. And then we have the Five of Wands, a conflict card with the Devil here, and the Eight of Swords. So, wow, the Eight of Swords is kind of being stuck in this situation that there is a way out, but you're like refusing to see that way. And this is also interesting imagery. I will definitely have to look into this card when we get to the minors, but yeah, so I think there's a temptation for, I don't know if drama is the right word, but there's like instigating drama, instigating this fight that's sort of keeping the situation stuck where it is, where I think a better way to act would be to not give in to these arguments and these fights and this drama, and because that's really what's keeping you stuck in this place. So that's what I would see with that. And then we already did all right, so yes, so now we're on the Tower. We've got the Six of Wands, a victory card, with the Three of Cups, which is like this friendship card. So very interesting. Huh. So these are two very positive cards with such a catastrophic card in the middle. And I wonder if this feeling of victory, and because that's what the Six of Wands is really about. It's like victory, people being very what is the word I'm trying to think of? Like in awe of your greatness, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And then we have this friendship thing here. So I'm wondering if this Tower moment is being knocked from our pedestal and being supported by friends during this difficult time. Like, we're so high on our pedestal here that something has knocked us down from that, and maybe we've even acted in a way that put us above, in our minds, above our friends or our loved ones or the people who supported us, and we were being knocked down from that pedestal, but we still have those friends to lean on. Like, they're still there for us. Even though we may have acted in ways that were not so great to those friends. And yeah, so wow, that's what a, it was like positive, negative, positive sort of feeling with that reading. All right, so now we have the Wheel of Fortune. So this is an inevitable event. And Justice. Wow. Okay. So yeah, so this is an inevitable event, because the Wheel of Fortune is all about sort of fate in a way. Like, this is something that was bound to happen, and this catastrophic event happened, which makes this imagery in this card make a lot of sense, because that this Douglas fir, I keep calling it a redwood, but it's a Douglas fir, it has that warning that this is happening. It's just that, this Douglas fir can't do anything about it. It's stuck in its place. It sees that this is happening, and that's really connecting with this Wheel of Fortune. We can see that this is happening, but it's for the better. This is a justice. We see that this is coming, and it was rightful. It was this was not even what was meant to happen, but it's more of what, it's hard for me to put into words here, but it was the right thing to happen. It was justice happening, but we saw it coming, and it was this big giant upheaval that happened. So there we go. All right, and that was both of the Tower readings. Yes, both of the Tower readings. All right, and finally we're at the Star, and we have the Page of Pentacles, yet another court card. And we have the Seven of Pentacles. I like the Seven of Pentacles in general. The Pentacles is my favorite suit. So, all right. So I think this is, pretty clear here, because the Page of Pentacles is kind of that diligent planning. And then we're following that saying this is the exact way we should be doing this, whatever this is. And it's leading to kind of this little bit of a harvest, the rewards of planning, because it's not quite the Nine of Pentacles yet, because that's like the ultimate abundance and big harvest. This is like, we're seeing that those the seeds that we've planted here, and that diligence we had here is paying off, and this is the right way to go. And we're seeing the fruits of we're starting to see the buds, the fruits of our labor. And the Seven of Pentacles says to just keep doing what we're doing, continue planting, continue nurturing those plants, keep doing what you're doing, and have some patience, because we're starting to see the fruits of our rewards. So that's very positive. All right, and now we have the Magician with the Seven of Wands. Okay. So this is quite interesting. So we have the Magician, who is kind of a master at what they're doing. We have the Star, which is kind of that calming energy. And then we have the Seven of Wands, which has a goat here. I'm not sure what kind of goat, but some sort of mountain goat. And the Seven of Wands is about defense, and kind of standing your ground, being defensive, or warding things off. People often have trouble between the Seven of Wands and the Nine of Wands, but the Nine of Wands is, like I've said before, is kind of that wounded warrior, which is a term I got from Tarot Oracle here on YouTube. Just that phrasing for the Nine of Wands is just something that's always really stuck with me, and made sense for that card. So the Nine of Wands is kind of that wounded warrior, whereas the Seven of Wands is defending, and standing its ground. And so combined with these, I feel like the way this is saying to be is to, instead of arguing and fighting, or being like that Five of Wands energy from before, instead of doing this sort of energy and fighting and arguing, taking the more calm and collected approach as and standing your ground. And with the Star being here, this is saying this is the way to go. This is the way. But yeah, so it's that just taking, instead of flying off the handle and doing all this fighting sort of energy, it's sort of taking a more calm, collective, and firm stance, because both of these cards are very firm. Yeah, I would, yeah, that's a good word for it. A very firm energy, but being very calm, cool, and collected about this. So there we go. So those are the readings for these cards. So that was the next 6 cards in the Major Arcana. And the next video, we will do the next 6 cards. So thank you so much for watching, everyone, and I will see you next time. Bye!